Hello everyone and welcome to the Samba topic. This is where we're going to cover the download, installation and configuration of Samba. Let's take a look what Samba is. Samba is a Linux tool or utility that allows sharing of Linux resources such as files and printers with other operating systems. So it works exactly like NFS. But the difference is NFS shares within a Linux or Unix-like system, whereas Samba it shares with other operating systems, for example, Windows and Mac. Now, let's take a look at an example where computer A shares its file system with computer B using Samba. Then computer B will see that shared file system as if it is mounted as its local file system. So here's a client. Let's see if this is the client. Let's call it client B or server B. It sends a mount request. Hey, I want to get your shared file system. And that request goes to the server which is sharing that Samba share. Now this server has to run the Samba server in order to accept those requests. If it is running that service or that process, it verifies it and then it sends the approval back to the client and then client can mount that file system. Moving on, let's take a look at the SMB versus the CIF. Samba shares its file system through a protocol called SMB, which stands for Server Message Block, which was invented by IBM. Next, another protocol used to share Samba is through CIFS, which is Common Internet File System invented by Microsoft, and NMB, which stands for NetBIOS Named Server. CIFS became the extension of SMB, and now Microsoft has introduced newer version of SMB version 2 and 3 that are mostly used in the industry. So let me put it in a very simple language or simple term. That is, most people when they use either SMB or CIFS, basically they are talking about the same exact thing. All right, so let's take a look what exactly we're going to cover in terms of the technical side of the installation and configuration of Samba. First we're going to do is we're going to take a snapshot of the VM where we're going to install the Samba just in case things go wrong or things don't work or we mess up some other configuration files. We could always revert back to the original state of the VM. Then we're going to install the Samba packages. We're going to enable Samba to be allowed through firewall, and that is only if the firewall is running. You could also disable the firewall, and we will cover that part as well, but please make sure you get the proper permission to disable the firewall on your Linux machine if it's running in production. Then we create Samba shared directory and assign its permissions. Also, we'll change the SC Linux security context for the Samba shared directory. And again, you could also disable SC Linux completely, so this way you don't have to create those security contexts. But again, please confirm with your system administrator or your security team if you're running that Linux machine in production environment. Then we will modify the etc samba smb.conf file to add new shared file system. Also, please make sure you make a backup file for this smb config. Then we'll verify the settings. Once the packages are installed, we'll enable and start the Samba services, which are SMB and NMB. And then we'll mount Samba Share on Windows client. We'll also mount Samba Share on Linux client using the CIFS. And the last is we will also have some additional instructions for you on creating secure Samba share, meaning if you want to share the Samba file system by prompting the user with username and password, that is also covered in my instructions. All right, without further ado, let's get right into my Linux machine. Now, please note I have one Linux machine that is going to be acting like a server. There's going to be another Linux machine that's going to be acting like a client. And I also have my Windows machine where I'm going to mount that Samba share. And that Windows machine is where I'm running my virtual box. Okay, so let's start doing the actual technical stuff where we could actually install the Samba server and go through all these steps. So I have my Linux machine right here, which is going to be acting as a server. This is where I'm going to install my Samba server. So my machine name is my first Linux VM. And I have also an instruction guide with me, where I have written down all the instructions. So I'm gonna take all the instructions from there, which by the way, I'm going to also attach with with this lecture. So you can find the resource on this lecture as well and download that PDF file for some instruction. Um, it is right here for me. And now let me go back here, and I'm gonna follow the step-by-step installation instruction. So it says first please make sure to take a snapshot of your VM. Yes, that's so very important. So I'm gonna go into my Oracle box, and this is my first Linux VM. I'm going to take a snapshot, and I'm just gonna call um, before Samba. Click OK. Again, the reason we are taking this, so in case things go wrong, we could always come back to this state. Alright, so now the snapshot is done. Let's go ahead and close this out. Next step is become root. We are already logged in as root. When I do ID, that's my root account. Let me make this window a little smaller. Now I need to install yum install Samba, Samba-client, and Samba-common. All these three packages I could install in one go. So copy, come here, right click and paste. I'm going to fast forward that, so this way we could save some time. Okay, so the Samba package installation have been completed. You could verify by running rpm-qa command and grep for Samba, and you're gonna find all those three packages that we just installed. All right. Next thing is enable Samba to be allowed through firewall. So now if you have a firewall running and you cannot disable, then you have to add these values to your firewall. Now in my system, this is my lab system, so I keep my firewall turned off. I could also verify by checking systemctl status firewall D status. Okay, as you notice, it says status is loaded and active. It is inactive, it's dead, so it's not running. So if you are running firewall in your environment, you could add these parameters. So next step is to stop and disable firewall. If you do not want to use your firewall, you could follow these steps and disable firewall or IP tables. Both are the same. But for me, it's not running, so I'm going to move on to the next step. Now create a Samba shared directory and assign permission. And that is, let's create this directory which we want to share. So that is mkdir -p samba / more pretzels. That's just a pretzel. It's a key. It's a word that I got it from a Seinfeld show where they would say, "Hey, these pretzels are making me thirsty." So it's just that now we are sharing these pretzels, so I'm putting the pretzel word in the Samba share. All right, so it's just a name. You could pick any name, by the way. Let's go ahead and create it. It is created. Now I'm going to go ahead and assign some permissions, so everyone could read, write, and execute. Samba, more pretzel. Okay, now let me just make this a little bigger. Next step is ownership. So right here, if you notice, let me make this a little smaller. We have to change the ownership. So if you go to Samba, if you go to /cd/ and do ls -ltr, you're going to notice the Samba is owned by root. We want to change its ownership permissions to nobody. Alright, so change own -r, which is recursive, nobody, nobody for the group as well, and to Samba and more pretzels. Okay, so that is done. Let's verify it. It still says root. Oh, maybe, let me see, Samba. Oh, it changed the more pretzels, but we have to do the same thing for Samba as well. Okay, ls minus ltr, and now you're gonna see Samba itself has the same permission. So let me just change that as well here. So change ownership, and that is, just remove that. So it will be a recursive ownership change. All right, next step is also you need to change the SC Linux security. So now for me, SC Linux, let's see if SC Linux is running in my system. So I'll do SC status, and you're going to notice that I have that enabled. So I want to disable it. That's for my lab environment. I could do whatever I want, but if you are running in production, please check with your security folks. Check with your system administrator before you disable anything. So I'm going to go in, when I need to disable, I'll go into VI at SC Linux config file. I come down to SC Linux, and where you see enforcing, take out the enforcing and replace it with disabled. Then save the file, and then simply I just need to reboot. Oops. Okay, so the entire reboot is gonna take maybe 2 to 3 minutes. So I'm just gonna fast forward from here. Okay, let's check if we have the system back. So click on this little icon and click on restart session. Yep, we got it back. So log in as root. Now we have disabled SC Linux, but let's verify if it has been. So type SC status, and you're going to see SC Linux status equal disabled. Beautiful. All right, moving on. Now it's time to modify etc samba config file and add new shared file system. Make sure to create a copy of the SMB file. Very good idea. So let's go to etc samba, and in here I have a file called smb.conf. Before I modify it, I wanted to make a backup, so I'll create a copy, smb.conf, smb.conf.orig. I usually pick that name, or I put it the date on it. It depends how you want to create a copy. So now I'll go ahead and modify it. And simply I want you to go ahead and delete everything below the comment section. So from global, just keep hitting delete, D. Okay, from here I want you to just simply copy this entire, all these contents and paste it here. But at the same time, I want you to paste it so it looks nice. Okay, workgroup equal workgroup that goes with Windows. NetBIOS name, we're gonna go with CentOS. Security user, map to guest. DNS proxy, no, these are some default setting. If I get into each of these parameters, what exactly each of them mean, is going to take me a really long time. But my advice is to you is just simply go ahead and take all these parameters and just simply paste it into your smb.conf file. Okay, so anonymous is going to be the actual share that's going to show up, and the path is going to be Samba more pretzels, right? This is the file system that we created to be shared. Is it browsable? Yes. Is it writable? Yes. Guest is okay. Guest only? Yes. Read only? No. So all these permissions are set there. Everybody could use it. Everybody could browse it. Beautiful. Now go ahead, escape, and save out of it. Now it is saved. Now I want you to run this command called test par, which is actually going to test all the parameters that we have for Samba. To test par, hit enter. It's going to ask you, please enter to see a dump of your service definition. Hit enter, and nothing, no errors are coming up. Perfect. Now let's move on. Now we are on the part where once the package are installed, enable and start NFS services. Sorry, not NFS, Samba services. Okay, and that is systemctl start. Okay, first enable. Let's enable it. The reason we enable it, so it could start when the system reboots. So enable SMB. Okay, that is enabled. Let's enable NMB. Okay, that is done. Now let's start both services. So systemctl start. That is started. When you do not get anything back, it means it has started. And the same thing with NMB. Perfect, it started. If you want to check the status on both, so you could just type systemctl status SMB and hit enter, and you're going to see the status active, active, and it's running. Same thing you're going to see when you do for NMB. There you go. See active, status active, and it is running. Okay, perfect. Moving on. Now it's time for us to mount that file system on the Windows machine. So first of all, let me go to the share, and my share was Samba more pretzel, right? That was the name of the share. So now I want to create a file, any file like touch um, apples, for example. So now I created this file called touch apples. Okay, so now I will go in and to my Windows machine. This is my Windows machine. I'm going to click on start, and right here it says search program and files. I'm going to type in backslash backslash 192.168.1.95. The reason I'm typing 95 is because that is the IP of my machine right here. You're going to see right here 192.168.1.95. So that's what I'm going to type. Okay. So it's already been written there for me. Click on it, and right here the share comes up as anonymous. Double click on it, and you're going to see the file called apples. This is the same file that you have shared from this system. Now go ahead and create a file from the Windows machine so you would know it is showing up on the Linux machine as well. So go ahead and right click and create new and pick the text document. Once you click on the text document, put in a name, let's say Yada, hit enter. Now go back to the Linux machine. Which directory you're in? You're in Samba, more pretzel, beautiful. And now let's do ls-ltr, and you're gonna see the Yada is actually there, and it is created by nobody. The reason apples was created by root because I was logged in. I am logged in as root. Who am I? Who am I? Root. So that's why you see it. If I had been logged in as nobody, it would have been created the files under nobody. So there's your Java file list. You could create as many files here, it will show up here. So that's how you're sharing these file system from Linux machine to Windows machine. Isn't it cool? Yes, it is. Now let's take a look at what if you want to use the same Samba and you want to mount the same file system on another Linux machine as using Samba share. You could do that as well. So I have my another Linux machine right here, and I'm calling it Linux CentOS 7. That's my name of my Linux client. Maybe you have a different name. Maybe you have the ones that we created earlier. If you remember, we created a second machine called Monks. You could use that as well. All right, so that's the machine as a client machine. For that, I'm going to have to install CIFS utility and Samba client. So simply become root, which I am. And then I'm going to copy this entire line and come here, right click on this machine, and it will automatically paste everything that I have copied from that Word document. Go ahead and hit enter. Okay, it says package CIF utility already installed and latest version that is already running. And the second one is Samba client. This is already installed and running the latest version. Nice. The reason it's saying that because I did go through this practice before I created this video. So anyway, so the package is there. If that packages if these packages don't exist on your machine, then it will install all of these two packages on your machine. Anyway, so now if I need to mount these Samba share right here into my other Linux machine, the client machine, then I have to install those packages, and also I have to create a mount point where I'm going to mount that. So for that, I'm going to create a directory, a mount point directory. I'm going to call it make dir mnt samba share, and in this case I have already created that. If I go to cd mnt, let me see if I have it or not. No, I don't. So I'll go ahead and create that directory, make dir samba share. It's just a name I'm picking. You could pick any name, okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and mount that CIFS share. So here's the entry for my mount. Mount dash T CIFS. T is for which file system, and copy. Once I copy it, I'm going to paste it right here. Let me make this a little bigger. So now you're going to notice mount minus T CIFS, which is a file system. 192.168.1.95 is the IP address of this machine right here. And let's go back. Slash anonymous. This is the anonymous file system that we created in smb.conf file. And here is our mount point. Where are we mounting it on? That's pretty much it. Go ahead and hit enter. As soon as you're going to hit enter, it's going to prompt you for a password. And you're probably going to be thinking, hey, I didn't create any password. Yes, you did not. So what do you have to do? Just simply go ahead and hit enter. Don't put any password. Don't put any keys. Just simply hit enter. Once you did that, now I want you to do df minus h. And you're going to see right here, our mount point has been mounted over CIFS. And there it is. This is the mount point. Now let's go into that mount point, cd slash mnt, Samba shares, do ls minus l, and you're going to see apples and yada. You could also create another file right here, and you could call it dd yada. Yada. Alright, so it is created now. You notice you have 3 files. Now let's go to the client machine, and you're going to see 3 files here too. Now let's go to the Windows machine, where we had that open. I think I closed it, so let me go back. 192.168.1.95, and here's the share, and you're going to see these 3 files. This is the one I created on Windows. This is the one I created on another Linux machine. This is the one I created on the actual server where the Samba server is running. Alright, so this is exactly what I wanted to share with you. I really hope you learned a lot. You now at this point you know how to create a Samba server and how to share a file system. Now for those who wants to create a file system through a secured way, like to prompt a user to put in a username and password. For those, I have these instructions right here which says Samba secure Samba server. So please go through these instructions in my attachment, the resource guide that will be with this video, and then you will be able to share the file system through username and password. All right, good luck.